Vocabulary. Vocabulary forms the main building blocks of functional meaning in a language. There are over 500,000 words in the English language, but the average native speaker can do with learning only 5,000 of those words. Words are bound together through grammar, through the syntax, but without words, normal meaning of communication would fail. So we have high frequency words, which each discipline has of its own special words. So those occur more frequently in those specialist areas. Then we have low frequency words, which are about 1,20,000, which are low frequency. Do we need to have, does business English need to have its own specialist vocabulary? And how can we differentiate this specialist vocabulary from the general English vocabulary? So we can differentiate it according to the types of vocabulary, or we can differentiate it according to the context in which it is being used. So if we look at the types and the context, we find that in business English, there are basically 4 types of situations, contexts for which we require vocabulary. The first is the interaction between specialist and specialist. So both the interlocutors are people who are specialists of the area. So there would be a vocabulary for them. Then there is an interaction between specialist and non-specialist individuals, or between non-specialist and specialist. So for this second and third category, we need a different type of a vocabulary. Then we have the journalist and journalist. So a third type of a vocabulary would be needed for people who fall into this category. So for specialist communication, there is a range of vocabulary which they have to deal with, which is mostly the shared professional vocabulary to discuss professional areas belonging to the same area. So there is a use for having a precise lexical items which are being used for that particular context, and the topics also according to the topics which are being discussed. So a special type of you can say vocabulary needed for people who both belong to the specialist area and who share the professional background. Then there is a specialist and non-specialist and specialist category. This is the need of the multifaceted manager of today, of the modern organization, who needs to be able to operate not only with his own team but with also multidisciplinary work groups. So he has to talk to seniors as well as juniors. He has to talk to specialists and non-specialists. So this type of vocabulary would be needed for people who have this multifaceted type of job description. And they would be suited according to the context in which he is using it, and according to the needs of the situation of his own area as well as of other people's area with whom he is communicating. Then the last category, the journalist and journalist. Here, successful businesses has to operate outside the company boardrooms and the conference rooms. It is more of the social side of communication, in which people have to carry out their business concerns outside the formal areas of the companies. So a general type of a vocabulary is used here. You can say a layman sort of a vocabulary to carry out the social side. So what are the principles for teaching vocabulary? First of all, the teacher has to focus on the vocabulary which is most important for the students. So what would that be? He could choose the most frequently used 1,000 words which are used in the area or professional area of the learner. And according to the learner's goals, what are the goals of the learners to be able to use that vocabulary? The academic word list is a document which gives, which classifies the words which are used for academic use. So help can be taken from that. Then focus on vocabulary in appropriate ways. How should words be taught? You can teach vocabulary by telling the students to guess from the context, or by using word cards, or by using dictionaries. So give attention to high frequency words through focusing the learner's deliberate attention onto them, or by using them, using those high frequency words in communicating messages in all the skills activities which you carry out in the classroom. Then encourage learners to reflect on and take responsibility for their own learning of vocabulary. Give them knowledge, tell them what to learn and the options which are available for learning their vocabulary. So, skill in choosing the best option, the ability to monitor and evaluate the progress which they are making in their learning. So, the teacher's focus should be to teach, first of all, the most useful vocabulary which is needed by the learner in his core area, and then to provide strategy training to the learner to for those low frequency vocabulary which he has to learn. And then as learning occurs in all parts of the courses, so help the learners to take control of their learning themselves.